Hey, what's up, y'all? This is something that is super special to us because this is our first sponsored show for the podcast. We are so grateful to the people at Tokyo Treat to have reached out to us and to giving us this box to show to you guys, and we're really excited to dive right in. So let's go ahead and have you take it away.
Yeah, so for those of you who might not know what Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box. You'll get up to 20 of the latest exclusive, limited edition, and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time, like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese sake Kit Kats, which that sounds really interesting. I kind of want to try that one someday.
Kit Kats.
Ramen, and many more.
So, yeah, personal anecdote about Tokyo Treat. Tom and I were subscribed for several months, paid our own money to get this box, and it was always so much fun. We subscribed during the middle of the pandemic, and so it was really nice to get like a box of fun sent directly from Japan for us to open and to eat while we were watching some of our favorite animes, lounged up at home. So it's really, really exciting to get to partner with Tokyo Treat and the Hashira Half Hour. We're really honored that they reached out to us. And this month's theme looks pretty interesting. We got like the little booklet here, Mount Fuji Snack Venture.
This says Iko, which means let's go.
The enchanting fall season is upon us. What better way to savor this perfect season than amidst the majestic mountains? This month, Tokyo Treat invites you on a trip to Mount Fuji, with exclusive snacks inspired by it like Mount Fuji green tea cake, Mount Fuji sandwich cookie, sweet potato sable cookie, and wasabi potato chips.
We'll take this potato chip and eat it.
But this is really nice. It lists any common allergens in case you would need to know about that, and whether or not it's suitable for vegetarians, which is also pretty cool.
And also contains a wealth of information about Japanese culture and tradition. So there's some really interesting facts about things that might be happening around this time of year in Japan.
Thank you again to Tokyo Treat for sponsoring today's episode of the Hashira Half Hour. We are so excited to have this partnership, and if any of you are interested, you liked some of the snacks that we just munched on, and you might be wanting to get your own Tokyo Treat box, all you have to do is go to tokyotreat.com, and actually if you enter code Hashira, you can get $5 off of your first box. So thank you so much for listening, and let's jump into today's episode.
Itadakimasu!
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour. So excited to be back here today and be going into the thick of it. But, you know, we always love some Nanami time, some Megumi time, and we get that today. We are eating good. I will be your host today, and as always, I'm joined by my friends.
You know, they call him Megumi, but I like to think of him as Mega-Glue-Me, right? Because he is the sad boy of this show. That is your big brain moment for today. Mega-Gloomy, if you will.
The way I went to glue, like not gloomy, but like glue. What's up, everybody? This episode,
Let's just jump right to it, shall we? So today's episode is titled Fluctuations, and boy, oh boy, do my feelings fluctuate every time this show is on. Did you feel? We open up the episode with Mei Mei and Wee Wee in the domain expansion of Smallpox spirit that Geto had unleashed on her. And this scene creeps me out so much. We talked about this the last time that we saw Mei Mei on the screen. The fact that Geto has control over something as strong as a smallpox curse is really, really frightening, because we've learned, of course, in Jujutsu Kaisen that curses are like the manifestation of bottled up human emotion, and like they come out of the worst possible things that humans could feel or think. So when you think about that, it's like we saw Yuji take on, like, for example, something that was in a hospital. And hospitals also kind of creep me out, because some of people's like worst and best moments happen in hospitals. To be the smallpox curse, which was like a disease that eradicated an enormous percentage of the world's population in its time, like, that is a curse to be reckoned with, for sure. And so knowing that that curse is as powerful as it is, and that it's something that Geto has in his arsenal, like one of who knows how many, and also how strong does that mean that Geto is, that he has control over something as ancient and dominating as like literally smallpox. So that's very, very frightening. The scene gives me the heebie-jeebies. And yet, Mei Mei seems like she's able to figure out a solution to this domain pretty quickly. Of course, this is like at the cost of her brother. What did you guys think of this scene and that she was like willing to sacrifice him so quickly?
I've been getting weird vibes from their relationship the whole time, so it did not surprise me that she was like, "Wee, will you die for me?" And he was like, "Nay, Sama, I thought you'd never ask." And I was like, okay, why does this not surprise me? It's such a like weird vibe from the two of them, and unfortunately a lot of animes do this where it's just like kind of between siblings. Black Clover comes to mind. But to kind of talk about the smallpox curse, I also thought it was interesting too. And of course my like non-manga self here is thinking like, is this specifically the person that is running Geto's body, or is this actually something Geto could do? Because it seems like it's one of his like abilities, but we never saw him do smallpox. So I'm kind of interested if that's a spoiler. You can answer me. If not, then whatever. Or if that's not a spoiler, you can answer me. If it is, then don't say anything. But you know, it was an interesting back and forth. But again, did not surprise me how Wee Wee was like, so of course we'll die for you. Like, what?
Yeah, to answer your question, Hannah, because he's a cursed user, it's just something he's collected in his arsenal over time. It's kind of like how Maki collects tools and stuff like that.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, not a spoiler. But with that being said, yeah, also on Hannah, not surprised. I mean, pawn to K4 and then the queen strikes, right? Like, that didn't surprise me at all. But I was like, I think I was more surprised, and I get like, I knew their dynamic was weird, but I was a little more surprised by his just like literal like willingness and up to go. He was like, "Yep, let's do it," and I was like, "You're not even gonna ask a question. You're not even gonna be like, are you sure I don't need to die?" Like there was just like no hesitation, and I was like, I guess that's resolve for sure. Is it the resolve I want? No. But you know, that's not the for you page, that's the for them page, okay?
I don't know that I was surprised by her willingness to sacrifice him, but I was definitely taken aback because it's like I feel like that would solve a lot of people's problems in this show if they were just like willing to do that. But that's never really how it goes in animes. Like even a lot of villains like don't necessarily sacrifice their immediate comrades. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. So I thought that this was kind of another unique moment in Jujutsu Kaisen. Yeah, I don't know. And he was just like so down. Like their dynamic is super weird. I also don't like that. That also gives me the heebie-jeebies in a very different way, but I kind of wasn't surprised that she was like so self-centered that she like, and I don't know that it would have mattered who was in there. Like clearly it's like, this is my literal little brother. I think that she would like step on whoever she needs to get to where she wants to be or to stay alive. So not necessarily surprising, but definitely none of our sweet heroes would do that. So fun contrast. But we do learn, of course, that she actually does have the situation under control and that he does not have to die at this time. And we get to see again, like, this is the power of a grade 1 sorcerer that's like, so this is like somebody who's the same level as Nanami. She's quite strong and she can hold her own even against something like the smallpox spirit. However, her approach obviously is extremely different, like I just touched on. Like she seems willing to step on others, while someone like Nanami, for example, like has a goal to protect anyone that he's taken under his wing, which we love about him so much. He's such a sweet boy, sweet teacher. Just something that I noticed. Interesting that they came from the same class. And being that they are from the same class, similar power levels, we get to see her bird attack for the first time here, which is also creepy and so strong. And they mention here in kind of a side note that apparently Gojo is the only one to have ever survived her attack, which I had a little bit of fun imagining, like what must have led up to them having to like face off against each other like that. I like to imagine that he made her angry. How do you think that dynamic worked? Like just thinking about all of these now adult grade 1 sorcerers that were classmates turning into what they are now.
Here's what happened. I know what happened. It was a one day. All three of them, Nanami, Mei Mei, and Gojo, were walking down the street. Mei had a latte in hand, and that latte fell out of hand real quick. And Gojo was wearing white that day, and she wouldn't apologize for spilling the latte on his shirt. And that's when, out of her purest moment of desperation, she thought she was going to kill Gojo. And she didn't.
I love that. I'm kind of imagining the picture of Jonah Hill with his coffee dropping, though. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So yeah,
Is
I
that
think
all
that's
you
how
gotta
that.
say?
I think that's how it came out, and I think that Gojo, of course, was like had some cocky remark like, "Oh, that was a nice effort. That was cute," but Mei definitely thought she had something on him. And I think that's the interesting part is that, like, again, we see that we get another piece of characterization about Gojo that says he's the strongest, yet the strongest has been captured. What does that mean, again, right? What does the strongest being mean?
Yeah, I didn't exactly imagine that going down as because coffee spilled on Gojo. But I kind of see it as I feel like it might have just been everyone knew Gojo was the strongest, so literally they just one time at the school were like, "All right, go at Gojo with everything you have," and he was like, "Yeah, sounds good. I can take you on," and that's just how it went down. Either that or Gojo made some kind of remark about Wee Wee, and Mei got really upset and tried to kill him. Those are the only two options I can think of, but I like Brian's story. He's way more creative than I am. I like seeing this attack. This whole scene was very Halloween vibes, and it wasn't that long before Halloween that this episode came out, so I really liked that. I mean, she's really strong. She has a lot of amazing abilities, and of course, like you said, she's a grade 1, just like Nanami. So it's good to see, her fight like this. Also, I found it interesting that Wee Wee, like, it wasn't it like pretty much his power could only unlock if he was like sacrificing himself for someone or something along those lines. So I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense, but like still.
Yeah, the dynamic's very interesting, and I think the hidden inventory also, just to like come back to that for a moment, was like very well timed as far as like where do we get this part of the story, where like where do we learn about these characters past and like who might have been the trio kind of thing, and their classmates. You have like those main two certainly at least, and then you have these other characters like Mei, like Nanami, and I think it's fun to imagine what that group of underclassmen might have been like back then, and yet what they continue to be. So it's interesting how that carries into their adulthood. But
Has Gojo ever like grown up out of being an underclassman?
it's a good question. Mina says no. No, probably not.
He's a kid at heart. He's a kid at heart.
He's a kid, but I do think he can be serious when he needs to.
Yeah, he can be serious, and he
wouldn't
can be
know
very
right
protective.
now. Thanks, Gege.
We know right now he's kicking back.
He's kicking back watching some Chainsaw Man in the prison realm.
Hey,
Good to
Netflix
know they
exists.
set him up with a TV. What if all the animes that Studio Mappa animates just exist in the same universe?
I would not
Well,
want
that's
to
the
be
thing.
there.
Me neither.
Chainsaw Man was originally in My Hero. That's the weird part, is that during the last season when they had the large raid on the villain hideout, in the manga panels, Chainsaw Man was originally there.
That's fun. It's a fun little Easter egg.
That would also mean that it all started like way back when with Titans. So I don't want that world to exist. I'm just saying.
Nope.
I don't want most anime worlds to exist. I don't want the Demon Slayer world to exist. I don't want demons. No, thank you.
No, I want to live literally inside of Howl's Moving Castle and nothing else, for the record. So,
Accurate.
no pain, only gain. On that note, Mei is finally able to break out of the domain, and what that means now is that she will have to face off with Pseudo Ghetto. How do you think this is gonna go?
I have no idea. So far, nearly every fight in this arc has surprised me. So, yeah, I don't have any predictions. I genuinely, I feel like I've seen enough of both these characters that they, I feel like one has to die, but I just genuinely don't know who. But I have an idea. But I'm not going to say. We'll hang on to that.
I think that this is going to go exactly the way it's meant to. And I think that's a different direction than Hannah's thinking. I think, realistically, kind of when we saw Gojo break the spell a little bit, I think I ponder, I give the question to the anime onlys. Do you think that has anything to do with Mei Mei, right? Because we knew how Gojo and Geto were super close. Now, if we, again, going back to hidden inventory, if we go to that last episode, we're pre KFC. Who was the one who had an agreeable conversation with Geto? It was Mei Mei. So, do you think that there is any way, shape, or form that Mei Mei can talk her way out of this? I'm breaking out my Haley now.
On
No
next
comment.
week's episode. No, it's interesting, and yes, like, and she's called out in this, in like the monologue. I don't think here. I think it was the first time that she encountered him and before she got sent in. But she's like, probably a fake. But let's see. I do know this guy. I'm interested to see some more. But we do not get to see that now. We'll have to find out in a future episode, because now we get to see Nanami, Maki, and Grandpa Zenin head to the lower levels of Shibuya Station, and they stumble upon cursed spirit Dagon, who looks a bit like an octopus. Things move really fast here. Grandpa Zenin takes him out at super speed, which Dagon does not like, and then he proceeds to turn into a big boy. Same, honestly. I turn into a big boy when I'm not happy. Angie.
Okay. I'm Pookie. I'm Angie. I cannot believe I just said that.
Where's the cringe hedgehog, Kira?
You know the cringe hedgehog too. I love him. Oh, whoo. Okay, yeah. I love this cursed spirit. When I say I mean that, like, I love aquatic things. There's like a specific deck type in Magic that I play that you can play as like sea creatures. Love that shit because they're all like so beautiful and they're all like so well like designed, and I feel like this cursed spirit really reflects that. I love the way that it's still anthropomorphic and still like somewhat of a human being, but still really remains true to like what an octopus would look like as an anthropomorph. So I think it's a really cool design to start, and nonetheless it's still really powerful too. It kind of upgrades in the meantime too. It kind of goes, I don't remember exactly, but before its transformation I don't think it could speak, and then when it kind of blossomed it was able to start communicating, which I think is a really cool aspect of this cursed spirit as well.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. If I get mad, I turn into the baby version and can't like function and do anything like speak. I just lose all ability to, I don't know. I just lose ability to do things.
That's honestly, that's actually probably more accurate.
Like I get angry and I'm like, okay, like I'm just gonna go curl up into a little tiny version of myself and not speak to anyone. It's not that bad, but oh my gosh, Grandpa Zenin definitely surprised me here. I was like, can he do anything? Can he like not do anything? Like what's going on? Isn't the Zenin clan supposed to be like insanely strong? Why is he just sitting around drinking sake? What? Also, really excited to see my girl Maki. As this season goes on, I'm reminded just how much I love her. So let's go, Maki.
She's so cool. She's like such a queen. And we've touched on this at least once every episode. But I have to just put it out there for good measure. Thank you, Mappa, for giving us all of these delicious, yummy boys. And for not sexualizing any of the women at all. It's so incredible. She's so cool. She is so cool.
If you love her now, Mina, wait until you get into the manga.
She's such a boss. She is a girl boss, for real. She's so cool, but actually, Grandpa Zenin was pretty cool in this moment, even though, like, we've come to know that we probably shouldn't be, like, huge Zenin clan fans. Try saying that 10 times fast. Speaking of Grandpa Zenin, in this fight, we can immediately tell that Dagon is very strong. And Grandpa Zenin acknowledges him, which is a big deal. Nanami seems like a little bit worried about it, and Maki even recognizes that she probably would have died just now without Grandpa there to help. As this is happening, they are still like in the middle of this fight, and Dagon is able to continuously deflect their attacks. And at this point, he even launches a domain expansion that looks kind of like a beach scene that maybe we've seen before in this show.
What? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting things apparently. I was just gonna say, of course, like, still, it still tracks that, like, Demon Slayer is the only anime that doesn't get a beach scene. Like, those kids need to go to the beach. Why don't they get a beach episode? They deserve it. Every other show, even freaking Jujutsu Kaisen, gets a beach scene, even if it's not like a vacation. It's a problem, but
True. It's like an anti-beach scene.
yeah, it goes against all like desires for beach episodes.
Let's go to the beach, beach, beach. I'm Nikki. I hope someone out there gets that Vine reference. But, yeah, I mean, if this were a true beach scene, we would all be happy building sandcastles. But unfortunately, it's a beach scene where, stuff's gone awry, if you will. It's not going too hot. Now, nonetheless, like, no one's super bad right now. Like, no one's, like, severely injured yet or anything like that. But at least they have it somewhat under control. Now, we haven't mentioned Grandpa's technique yet. And the frames per second thing is really cool. Let me just say, like, being able to catch someone on a frame and then smash them, like, Nanami smashed the crap out of him afterwards. Like, that tag team attack, that should have taken him out. But, I mean, it's an anime. So, like, that's the round one of the fight. We know that. And it was just so cool. Also, like, how they explained it with the technique needing to be physically accurate, right? So it can't have movements or motions that go against the laws of physics. I thought that was really cool because if you're going to make superpowers, at least make them like realistic, I think. And I think that's what kind of makes Jujutsu Kaisen somewhat real, is like there's a lot of thought and put into these curse techniques. So I think there's just like a lot of cool stuff here.
I think so too. So the just to refresh everybody's memories, Mina and anybody else, it's been a while since we've seen this, but one of the very early scenes with some of our most prominent villains took place on the beach that looked really like this. So I thought it was interesting that like this was Dagon's domain expansion, and I'm like, oh, he must have been there the whole time, because this is where like Geto and Mahito and Jogo were all like frolicking around in season 1 talking about like their demonic plans for the future. And I just thought that was interesting because I think that when I had first seen it, I was imagining them on a literal beach, the way that like they were on that playground earlier. And I mean, this looks exactly like where they were, so I have to imagine they actually might have been in Dagon's domain expansion. Which also makes me wonder, like, if our perception of reality is all skewed in this show. Like, who knows? Maybe the playground wasn't real either. I don't know. Or, who's to say that a domain expansion's any less real than the things that we see? Reality is confusing. That is my takeaway. And let's keep going before I give myself an existential crisis.
Too late.
Too late, you're right. But yeah, generally in this show, I think we want our human protagonists to not have a beach scene, based on what we've seen so far. The guaranteed hits in this domain are definitely problematic for the trio that's stuck inside. It's like very Junji Ito inspired to have all these Shikigami fish that don't even show up until the moment of attack, and they're taking chunks out of our crew. And also, I'd like to point out, Maki can't even see them. Like, Nanami tells her, like, do your best, but, like, try to kind of stay, like, behind me, because, like, they're not, like, you can't even really sense something that doesn't show up until the minute that it's already attacking you. So, the fact that she's able to land, like, any blows at all is pretty incredible. But they are definitely all getting munched on, ripped to the crew. Or so it seems, because then we see Megumi fall from the sky, which is so cool. What do you think about this?
Like a falling angel. That's in honor of the AOT ending coming soon. But I mean, really, what falling angel could you ask for that's better, right? We know that he's a really strong fighter, and him being in addition to the crew that is now taking on Dagon is pretty helpful. Because, you know, he has the shadows that he can use, and we've already seen how versatile those shadows can be, from the devil dogs to the rabbits for fleeing to elephant for crushing. There's a lot of stuff here that can really help out. So I think Megumi being the one to show up is honestly one of the better options. I mean, besides Yuji, who has that superhuman strength, but we already know where he's at, he's the best person to show up right now.
This whole sequence had me feeling some type of way. Very stressed, like I felt pretty much this entire season so far. Oh my gosh. But to see these like Shikigami like come and like show up right when they're biting them, and they're like getting them good. I will say every man that I find hot in anime suddenly looks even hotter when they're bloody. So I'm not totally against some of the stuff that's going down. I just don't want certain people to die. uh but it's really, really great when Megumi shows up. I mean, we've already established that Megumi is my favorite character. So to see him come, and he's still fairly like, he's done some fighting, but he's pretty like, he's fine as of right now. Like Brian mentioned, the only other one that could really help would be Yuji, but we know he is not fine. So to see Megumi come in and fall from the sky like an angel, I was like, oh, there's my boy. My boy, father help. Anyway, so excited for him to do that.
Father.
Agreed. I thought that this scene was so cool, but like, yeah, the fish are nothing to be reckoned with. Like, Grandpa Zenin literally loses an entire arm. Nanami's looking bloody and beaten. Maki's also like not doing so great. So seeing Megumi is a breath of fresh air. But speaking of father help, we just gotta jump right in, right?
As soon as I said that, I was like,
father help. So yeah, let's just jump in. Megumi offers a solution here. He's talking to Nanami, where he essentially thinks that he can hold Dagon off while the other three are able to escape the domain expansion by like jumping at his feet. Because currently Megumi's own domain expansion is fending off Dagon's, meaning that like the Shikigami attacks are not going to work. He explains that Dagon can likely only conjure one of these domains in a day, and so if they are able to leave and like break the spell, essentially, they can win against him outside of this domain. So Nanami's there, he's calling the other two over, and it's looking pretty good for our heroes until someone else shows up.
not good, not good, not good. I loved this dynamic between Megumi and Nanami, first of all. I thought it was really, really cool. Again, to see Nanami just protecting his students. And this was less of a protecting him because it's a student and he wants to protect him. It was partially that, but also like protecting him while Megumi tries to do something to, you know, get them to be able to turn the tables against him. So I really, really enjoyed seeing him, you know, kind of like he saved him from an attack. So that was really, really cool. Now Daddy showing up, you know, that's the very last flash of this entire episode. So I'll save most of my thoughts for him showing up for the next episode, but I feel like it can't mean good things, but we'll see.
God damn! Listen, all right. I know he's a bad man, but he's a bad man.
Not the accent.
No, listen, him showing up. Johnny my husband is also a manga reader, and he forgot that this happened, and that might be like kind of Emily's favorite moment the other week when Hannah was freaking out about Nanami. This is maybe my favorite moment or correlated moment of this episode, was seeing my husband's face react to who we know shows up. So my God, he was like, and I was like, you forgot, didn't you?
And then the freaking ending credits.
Yep.
This is the worst.
Every single time. They really, Mappa really knows how to do it to him, and by doing it to him, I mean doing it to us. Personal vendetta. But this is where we leave off for next week, folks. So we'll have to see what's going to happen here in the next episode. Do we have any final thoughts before we just jump into our favorite moments? Okay, well then I will go ahead and go first. So, other than shirtless Nanami, thanks Mappa, so for me, like,
one of my favorite moments also was my interaction with the person I was watching this with, which is, of course, my sweet Tommy. But we know Tom is a sweet boy, but definitely a film bro. And so when Grandpa Zenin turns into literally Tom, he's like giving this monologue. He's lecturing Dagon, and what it feels like he's lecturing the audience directly about like aspect ratios, resolutions, and frame rates. And he's like, don't you think it's undignified to have your TV set to the super HD 4K setting? And I was like I'm like literally Tom, like probably could have given this monologue right as we were turning on the TV to watch this episode. I was laughing my ass off knowing that that is exactly my boy. What does it all mean? I'm going to leave that to Tom to explain. Leave it to the pros, but that was just so funny to me. He's never been more like an anime character than in that moment.
Yeah. Like I said, correlated moment was my husband reacting to the ending scene. However, I will say that I did like, again, Grandpa Zenin's curse technique. I think it's a really cool technique, and I think very inventive of Gege to give us something that feels so modern. A lot of anime take place in what feels like such a long time ago. When we talk about Demon Slayer, when we talk about Attack on Titan, even, it feels a little bit while ago. When we talk about all these other anime, yet this feels so like present day that it makes it a lot more relatable. And I think it kind of goes back to another segment we talked about, how all the names are like regular names. Like everyone knows a Gojo because it's like Derek in Japan. So it's just like, it feels so common. It's so cool that it's like somewhat relatable.
I really did like that. And what's funny is like I'm watching this alone because Jordan will be waiting to watch this all until the season is out like he usually does. But I was literally sitting there thinking, why is this character like reminding me of Tom? Or maybe it was like I was sitting there like, oh, I bet Tom's loving this or something along those lines, because I have no idea like any of the technical side that he's talking about. All I get is like the frames thing. I understand frames when it comes to animation, but everything else that he had mentioned, I was like, I bet Tom's having the time of his life. And then I'm fairly certain right after the episode he posted something about it, and I was like, of course he did.
I think he felt a little called out, to be honest.
Oh Lord, that was really good. But I would favorite moment, I have to go with when Megumi showed up. I just love Megumi, and like him trying to fight with Maki and everything. It's just a really cool moment. I love it when, you know, the students, even from different years, are working together.
It's getting harder and harder to pick favorite moments, guys, because the episodes are all really, really good. So, also, I feel like they're going by so fast because they're so good now, especially. But on that note, we have more to talk about next week for sure. Let's go ahead and move on to this week's Shibuya secret. So this one's a little fun. Did anyone recognize Dagon's voice? This made a little bit of a splash on the internet because he is a pretty well-loved and renowned voice actor in Japan. His name is Kenta Miyake, and you might recognize him from some other shows if you watch the Japanese voice-acted versions. He is probably best known currently as All Might in My Hero Academia. So if you recognize his voice, this one's definitely a little different. He was also Scar in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you're more of a gamer, he played the recurring character Vector the Crocodile in some of the Sonic games. And he's also well-loved for Japanese dubs of a lot of really famous like Hollywood movies. So for example, he is the Japanese voice of Thor in the beloved Marvel franchise. Lots of places to find and love him, and the internet really embraced the fact that he was in this episode. So I thought that was really cool. He's had so many roles, a really interesting and prolific career. So it's just cool that we were lucky to get his talent for a moment here in JJK. That's all that we have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening again to the Hashira Half Hour. As always, you can find us on all of our socials at Hashira Half Hour or at Hashira Half on X. And thank you so much for listening. Give us a download on Spotify. Thank you again to Tokyo Treat as well for sponsoring today's podcast episode. If you or a loved one are interested in getting a subscription to Tokyo Treat,
go ahead and check out the link below in the description for the link directly to the monthly subscription box, and use code Hashira for $5 off your first box. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Yo, I know.
Yo, I'm Mo.
Yo, I'm Mo.